The Meridian vessel emerged from hyperspace with the grace of a diving bird, its crystalline surface refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Senior observer Lyra Keth stood at her command post, her luminescent skin pulsing with anticipation as she gazed at the blue-green planet before her. Earth, the latest target for the Meridian Collective's careful manipulation. Preliminary scans complete, observer announced her second-in-command, Vex. Their technological development matches our earlier projections. Primitive fusion reactors, basic quantum computing, and early space colonization efforts. They're precisely where we need them to be. Lyra's skin rippled with satisfaction. The Meridians had perfected their approach over 10,000 years of careful expansion. Find developing civilizations, present themselves as benevolent mentors, slowly gain their trust, and then, when the moment was right, assume control of their resources and technology. It had worked 47 times before. Earth would be 48. Begin broadcast of the first contact protocol, she ordered, her voice carrying the melodic tones characteristic of her species. The message they would send was carefully crafted over centuries of psychological research, a perfect blend of peaceful overtures and subtle demonstrations of power. But as the first transmissions reached Earth's communication networks, something unexpected happened. Instead of the predicted chaos and panic, the humans responded with remarkable coordination. Within hours, a unified message arrived from their United Earth Council, requesting diplomatic contact. "This is unusual," Vex noted, his skin flickering with confusion. The simulation predicted at least 3 days of internal debate and power struggles. Lyra dismissed his concern. "They're simply more politically evolved than we anticipated. It changes nothing." But deep in her secondary brain, a tiny flutter of unease began to grow. The first meeting was arranged on neutral ground, a space station in Earth's orbit. As Lyra's diplomatic shuttle approached, she studied the human structure with carefully concealed disdain. It was functional but inelegant, a hodgepodge of different architectural styles and materials that seemed to somehow work together despite their disparate origins. The human delegation that greeted them was equally diverse, different colors, sizes, and styles of dress. Their leader, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, stepped forward with a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Welcome to Earth Station 1, she said. "We're honored to be the first to welcome the Meridian Collective to our solar system." Lyra performed the traditional greeting gesture of her people, her skin glowing with carefully modulated patterns of peace and friendship. "The honor is ours, Dr. Chen. We have watched your species' development with great interest." The negotiations that followed were textbook perfect. The humans were appropriately awed by Meridian technology, eager to learn, and grateful for the offered assistance in developing their civilization. They accepted the proposed exchange program readily. Meridian advisors would be stationed on Earth, while human scientists would be welcomed aboard Meridian vessels to learn their advanced technologies. Everything was proceeding exactly according to plan. Yet something kept nagging at Lyra's highly developed intuition. The humans were too perfect, too accepting, too unified in their responses. 1 month into the exchange program, Lyra received a routine report from one of her cultural observation teams. They had noticed something peculiar. Humans had an entire category of entertainment dedicated to scenarios of alien invasion. Thousands of stories, spanning centuries, about how humanity might respond to hostile extraterrestrial contact. Curious, she mused, reading through the report in her private chambers. They'd been practicing this scenario in their minds for generations. But surely it meant nothing. After all, what could a species that had barely mastered fusion power possibly hide from the Meridian Collective's advanced scanning technology? Their preparation, their unity, their careful responses, it had to be simple coincidence. As Lyra prepared her monthly report to the Collective Council, she pushed aside her nagging doubts. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The humans were learning exactly what the Meridians wanted them to learn, seeing exactly what they were meant to see. She didn't notice that her own reports were being carefully studied. analyzed, and shared among hidden human networks. She didn't realize that every piece of Meridian technology brought to Earth was being subtly tested, probed, and understood in ways her people never imagined possible. She didn't see that behind every grateful smile and eager question, humans were preparing for a scenario they had imagined countless times before. The trap was already set, and the Meridians had walked right into it. But that revelation would come later. For now, Lyra Kith continued to believe she was the hunter, not the hunted, never suspecting that humanity's greatest weapon was their ability to learn from even imagined threats. As the Earth's sun set on another day of successful cultural exchange, humans around the world continued their secret preparations. They had been ready for this moment not just for years or decades, but for centuries. The Meridians had chosen their target with their usual careful precision, but they had failed to realize one crucial fact. Sometimes the most dangerous prey is the one that looks the most vulnerable. Dr. Maya Patel stood in her underground laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays of Meridian technology schematics. The facility, buried deep beneath the Australian outback, was one of hundreds scattered across Earth, each disguised as something mundane: abandoned mines, old bunkers, or in this case, a supposedly decommissioned research station. "Show me the energy signature analysis again," she commanded. The AI system responded instantly, projecting a complex wave pattern that represented the Meridian ship's power distribution system. Maya smiled as she noticed something their mentors thought impossible, a pattern within the quantum fluctuations that suggested their technology wasn't as advanced as they pretended. "They've hit a plateau," she muttered, making notes in her neural interface. "They stopped innovating centuries ago. They're just iterating on the same base technology." A soft chime announced the arrival of her colleague, Dr. James Chen, brother of the very same Dr. Sarah Chen, who was currently playing the role of Earth's grateful diplomatic leader. He carried a small crystal, identical to the ones the Meridians used for data storage. "You won't believe what we found," he said, his eyes bright with excitement. "Remember how the Meridians claim their crystal technology is impossible to replicate without their advanced understanding of quantum mechanics?" He placed the crystal into an analysis chamber. "Watch this." The crystal lit up, displaying the same complex patterns as its Meridian counterpart. But this one had been manufactured in a lab in Lagos, using principles derived from studying termite mounds and crystal formation in deep-sea vents. Nature already solved the problem they think is so advanced, James explained. "We just had to look in the right places. The Meridians are so focused on their linear technological progression that they've forgotten how to learn from the world around them." Maya nodded, adding the new data to their growing database. Across the planet, similar breakthroughs were happening daily. In Brazil, a team had reverse-engineered the Meridian's communication system using principles found in mycological networks. In Japan, researchers had cracked their quantum encryption by studying the mathematics behind human intuition. But their greatest advantage wasn't technological. It was psychological. The Meridians believed themselves to be mentoring a naive species, carefully controlling what humanity learned. They didn't realize that every lesson they gave was being analyzed from 1,000 different perspectives, through the lens of countless different human cultures and ways of thinking. Update from the behavioral analysis team. Maya's neural interface announced, "The Meridians have a significant blind spot regarding parallel development. They can only conceive of technological progress as a linear path." This was the key insight that humanity had been banking on. While the Meridians saw technology as a straight line from primitive to advanced, humans had always developed in multiple directions simultaneously. When the Meridians scanned Earth for advanced technology, they found exactly what they expected: the obvious signs of a civilization on the cusp of major technological breakthrough. What they missed were the countless alternative approaches, the primitive methods that humans had continued to refine alongside their advanced technology. Maya pulled up another display, this one showing the progress of Project Mirror. On the surface, it appeared to be exactly what the Meridians expected: humans struggling to understand and replicate their advanced technology. But beneath that facade, humanity was developing something entirely different. "Status report on the defense grid," she asked. James checked his own interface. 90% complete. "The Meridians still think they're helping us upgrade our satellite network for better communication. They have no idea we're weaving in our own technology." Maya's expression hardened. They had hoped for more time, but they had prepared for this possibility. "Send the signal to all bases. Initiative Prometheus is now active." Across the planet, hidden facilities hummed to life. Seemingly primitive technology merged with advanced principles in ways the Meridians had never imagined possible. The defense grid, disguised as a simple communication network, began powering up its true capabilities. In orbit, aboard Earth Station 1, Dr. Sarah Chen received the notification through her neural interface. She maintained her pleasant smile as she continued her daily meeting with Lyra Kith, though her heart raced with anticipation. The Meridians thought they were the teachers, carefully controlling humanity's technological development. They didn't realize they were actually providing humanity with exactly what it needed: a close-up view of their weaknesses, their limitations, and most importantly, their blind spots. As the sun set over Australia, Maya Patel looked at the final simulation results. Everything was ready. The Meridians would soon discover that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in matching their linear technological progression. It was in finding entirely new paths they had never even considered possible. "Send the final confirmation," she ordered. "Operation Checkmate is go." The message went out, encoded in ways the Meridians wouldn't detect. Through patterns in internet traffic, through seemingly random variations in power grid usage, through 1,000 channels that looked like background noise to their advanced sensors, humanity was ready. The real test would begin soon, and the Meridians were about to learn why assuming technological superiority was their greatest mistake. The Meridian flagship, Eternal Dawn, dropped its peaceful facade like a shed skin. Its crystalline surface, once beautiful and translucent, turned obsidian black as weapon systems activated. Across Earth's orbit, 50 other Meridian ships underwent the same transformation. Below them, the planet seemed peaceful, unaware, vulnerable. Senior observer Lyra Keith allowed her skin to shift to its natural aggressive coloration. Deep crimson with streaks of gold. No more pretense of diplomatic niceties. No more playing mentor to these primitive humans. It was time to claim what the collective had come for. "Begin the resource acquisition protocol," she commanded. "Disable their primitive defense systems first. We don't want any unfortunate accidents damaging valuable resources." "Observer," Vex called out, his skin pulsing with confusion. "We're detecting unusual energy signatures from the satellite network." Lyra dismissed his concern with a gesture. "Their communication satellites are no threat to our shields. Proceed with." The rest of her order was cut off by a blinding flash. Where there had been empty space between her ships moments before, a complex web of energy now pulsed. The supposedly primitive satellite network had transformed into something else entirely. "Impossible," she whispered. On Earth Station 1, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the Meridian ships through reinforced windows. She keyed her neural interface. "They've made their move. Execute Phase 1. The energy web surrounding the Meridian fleet pulsed once, twice, and then began to resonate at a very specific frequency. On the Eternal Dawn's bridge, systems began to fail. "Our quantum shields," Vex reported, his skin now pale with fear. They're not just failing. They're being turned against us." Lyra's secondary brain worked furiously to understand what was happening. The humans couldn't possibly have developed this technology on their own. Unless, "Check the frequency signature of that energy web," she ordered. The answer made her skin turn ash gray. The humans weren't using their own technology. They were using Meridian technology, but in ways the collective had never imagined possible. They had taken the basic principles of Meridian quantum manipulation and combined them with what appeared to be primitive Earth sciences to create something entirely new. "Launch the autonomous warforms," she commanded. Thousands of crystalline drones deployed from the Meridian ships, their programming optimized through millennia of conquest. No primitive civilization had ever stood against them. But as the warforms descended toward Earth's atmosphere, they met another surprise. The planet's magnetic field itself seemed to come alive, twisting and pulsing with directed energy. The humans had somehow turned their planet's natural magnetosphere into a weapon. In her underground facility, Maya Patel monitored the magnetosphere defense grid. "Tesla was right," she muttered with a smile. "Just took us a while to figure out how to implement his ideas with a little help from our Meridian friends." The warforms began to fall, their crystalline structures resonating at their natural frequency until they shattered. Those that survived the magnetic assault found themselves targeted by ground-based weapons that looked deceptively simple, until they fired bolts of plasma contained within electromagnetic bottles, a technology the Meridians had dismissed as theoretically impossible. On the Eternal Dawn's bridge, Lyra received increasingly desperate reports. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were winning. Somehow, they had taken fragments of Meridian technology, combined them with their own primitive science, and created hybrid systems that bypassed millions of years of Meridian technological development. "How?" she demanded. "How did they develop all this without us detecting it?" The answer came from an unexpected source. A transmission from Earth, broadcast on all frequencies. Dr. Sarah Chen's face appeared on the main viewport, her expression no longer submissively pleasant. "You assumed that because we hadn't followed your exact path of technological development, we must be primitive," she said. "You never considered that there might be other paths, other ways of thinking about problems. While you showed us your technology, believing you were controlling our development, we were learning how you think. And more importantly, how you don't think." Lyra watched in horror as more defense systems activated around Earth. She recognized pieces of Meridian technology in all of them, but they were used in ways that defied everything she thought she knew about physical laws. The humans hadn't just copied Meridian technology, they had reimagined it completely. "The collective has always believed that technological progress must follow a single optimal path," Sarah continued. "That's why you've stagnated. You stopped looking for alternatives centuries ago. But humanity, we never stopped exploring every possible path. And now we're going to show you just how many paths you've missed." As if to emphasize her point, a new type of energy signature bloomed across Earth's surface, a perfect fusion of Meridian quantum principles and Earth's primitive particle physics. The Meridian fleet found itself trapped in a web of forces they couldn't counter because they had never imagined they were possible. Lyra Kith, who had overseen the conquest of a dozen worlds, felt something she had never experienced before, the dawning realization that she wasn't the hunter at all. She and her entire civilization had fallen into a trap centuries in the making, sprung by a species they had gravely underestimated. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility disguised as an old submarine base, Admiral Helena Rodriguez watched holographic displays showing the trapped Meridian fleet. She allowed herself a small smile as another of their attempts to break free was thwarted by Earth's transformed defense grid. "Status report on Project Babel," she asked her AI interface. "Translation matrix complete," it responded. "We can now intercept and modify their quantum communications in real time. They haven't detected the intrusion." The Admiral nodded. While the Meridians had focused on teaching humanity their language, they hadn't realized humans were actually learning how their thoughts were structured. Every conversation, every lesson, had been analyzed not just for content, but for the underlying patterns of Meridian cognition. "Launch Phase 2, she ordered. Across Earth's surface, hidden transmitters activated. They'd broadcast signals that seemed like random quantum noise to Meridian sensors, but carried precisely crafted messages designed to interfere with their hierarchical command structure. The Meridians had evolved as a highly ordered, hierarchical species. Their military doctrine relied on perfect coordination through their quantum communication network. But humans had spent centuries studying how to disrupt exactly this kind of centralized control. On the Eternal Dawn, Lyra Kith struggled to maintain order as her fleet's perfectly synchronized responses began to fragment. Her commands reached some ships garbled, others not at all. Worse, human vessels were appearing from hidden bases across the solar system, emerging from caverns on Mars, rising from the clouds of Venus, even sliding out of seemingly empty space near Jupiter's moons. How did we miss this? Vex demanded, his skin flickering with distress. Their space presence was supposed to be limited to near-Earth orbit. The answer came as they detected the technology these ships were using. Instead of trying to match Meridian FTL drives, humans had developed their own unique approach to space travel. They had combined elements of Meridian quantum tunneling with principles derived from studying Earth's native biology, specifically how certain organisms could enter suspended animation to survive extreme conditions. The human ships weren't faster than Meridian vessels, but they could essentially hibernate in space, waiting in carefully calculated positions for months or years without using enough energy to register on Meridian sensors. An entire defense fleet had been deployed across the solar system while the Meridians watched Earth, never realizing what they were seeing. Observer. A junior officer's skin pulsed with alarm. We're detecting anomalies in our crystal matrix storage systems, some kind of infection. Lyra's secondary brain processed the implications with growing horror. The humans hadn't just studied Meridian technology. They had found ways to hack it. They had discovered that the crystal matrices the Meridians used for data storage shared certain characteristics with organic computer viruses on Earth. By studying how Earth's digital ecosystems evolved and adapted, they had learned to create code that could infiltrate and repurpose Meridian systems. In her Australian facility, Maya Patel monitored the progress of the viral attack. "Beautiful," she murmured as she watched Meridian systems succumb to code based on Earth's most resilient organisms, tardigrades, bacteria that survived in extreme environments, and social insects that could reorganize their colonies after disruption. The Meridian fleet's coordinated defense began to break down. Ships that should have been working in perfect harmony found their systems interpreting commands differently, responding to phantom signals, or simply shutting down as the viral code rewrote their basic protocols. "Send in the hybrid squadrons," Admiral Rodriguez ordered. Small, agile craft swarmed from Earth's lunar bases. They looked crude compared to Meridian ships, but they incorporated principles from both technologies in ways that defied conventional spatial mechanics. They moved like schools of fish, adapting their formations organically, each craft learning from and responding to the others in ways that Meridian tactical computers couldn't predict. These squadrons carried weapons that demonstrated humanity's talent for combining different scientific principles. Some fired projectiles that used Meridian quantum tunneling technology to bypass shields entirely. Others deployed fields based on Earth's understanding of bioelectricity, disrupting the crystalline structures that Meridian technology relied on. On Earth Station 1, Dr. Sarah Chen received updates from all theaters of the battle. The Meridian fleet was in chaos, their carefully planned invasion falling apart in the face of humanity's multilayered response. But she knew better than to celebrate too early. "Status of the collective's reinforcement fleet," she asked her neural interface. "Still accelerating toward the solar system," came the response. But our deep space monitors confirmed they're maintaining contact with the invasion force. "They're seeing everything." Sarah smiled. That was exactly what humanity had hoped for. Every failed tactic, every surprised reaction from the invasion fleet was being transmitted back to the Meridian collective. They were learning, for the first time in millennia, that their assumptions about technological development were fundamentally flawed. In orbit, Lyra Keith watched her mighty fleet reduced to confusion and disorder by a species she had dismissed as primitive. The humans hadn't just prepared for this battle. They had spent generations preparing for it, imagining it, thinking about it from every possible angle. While the Meridians had seen only one path forward, humanity had explored countless alternatives, ready to use whatever worked, regardless of whether it fit conventional development models. And now, as her ship struggled against Earth's defenses, she realized that this wasn't just a military defeat. It was the end of the Meridian Collective's entire philosophy of technological superiority. The humans hadn't just beaten them. They had proven them wrong on a fundamental level. The Great Hall of Earth Station 1 had been transformed. Where once it served as a stage for humanity's feigned submission, it now hosted a different kind of gathering. Representatives from the Meridian Collective stood face to face with Earth's leaders, but this time there was no pretense of superiority on either side. Lyra Keth's scales had taken on a new color, a deep blue of humility that few Meridians had ever displayed before lesser species. She faced the assembled human leaders, her defeat now complete. The reinforcement fleet had arrived only to find the first invasion force thoroughly outmaneuvered, their technology turned against them in ways they hadn't believed possible. "The Collective acknowledges," she began, her voice carrying none of its former condescension, "that we have greatly misunderstood both humanity and the nature of progress itself." Dr. Sarah Chen sat at the head of the human delegation, her expression neutral but her eyes bright with the possibility of what was to come. "Understanding is the first step toward genuine cooperation," she responded. "Something very different from the guidance you originally offered us." The terms of peace were unlike anything the Meridian Collective had encountered in their 10,000 years of expansion. Humanity didn't demand surrender or submission. Instead, they proposed a genuine exchange of knowledge and ideas, one that would benefit both species. In her underground laboratory, Maya Patel was already working with a team of Meridian scientists who had requested to learn Earth's approach to technological development. They stood amazed as she demonstrated how humanity had created their hybrid technologies. "You see," she explained, pointing to a display showing multiple parallel development paths, "progress isn't a ladder to climb. It's more like a web to explore. Sometimes the best solution comes from combining old ideas in new ways, or finding inspiration in places you'd least expect." The Meridians watched in fascination as she showed them how Earth's defense grid had been inspired by neural networks in the human brain, combined with principles from coral reef ecosystems, and enhanced with elements of Meridian quantum theory. It was a way of thinking that challenged everything they had believed about technological advancement. Admiral Rodriguez, meanwhile, had begun working with Meridian military strategists to develop new approaches to space exploration and defense. "Your linear development gave you incredible advantages in some areas," she acknowledged, "but it also made you predictable. By combining our different approaches, we can create something better than either of us had alone." The impact rippled across the galaxy. Other species under Meridian control, learning of Earth's success, began to rediscover their own abandoned paths of development. The Collective's perfect model of technological progression shattered, replaced by something more chaotic, but infinitely more fertile. In orbit, Earth Station 1 underwent its own transformation. The hodgepodge of different architectural styles that had once drawn Meridian disdain became a symbol of the new approach, a place where different technologies and methodologies could coexist and combine in unexpected ways. Dr. James Chen stood with Vex, watching through the station's windows as human and Meridian ships conducted joint exercises, each learning from the other's approaches. "You know what your people's greatest mistake was?" he asked the former Meridian officer. Vex's scales shifted thoughtfully. "We thought advancement only moved in one direction, toward what we considered perfection. We forgot that adaptation, true adaptation, requires maintaining and exploring multiple possibilities." "Exactly," James nodded. "Humanity never abandoned our primitive technologies. We kept developing them alongside our advanced ones, creating a toolkit that could handle any situation. That's why we were ready for you." In the depths of space, near the orbit of Mars, one of humanity's hibernating ships awakened from its long wait. Its hybrid systems, a perfect fusion of human ingenuity and Meridian precision, powered up as it prepared to join the new combined fleet. Aboard, its crew, both human and Meridian, prepared to explore the galaxy together, each bringing their unique perspectives to the challenges ahead. Back on Earth, Maya Patel received the first data transmissions from joint research teams scattered across the solar system. Humanity's approach to technology was spreading, cross-pollinating with meridian knowledge to create new possibilities neither species had imagined before. The meridians were learning to think laterally, while humans gained insights from their linear precision. Send this to the archives. She instructed her AI interface, watching the data flow in. Future generations should remember that our greatest strength wasn't in our weapons or our technology. It was in our ability to imagine different futures, to prepare for possibilities that seemed impossible, and to find inspiration in everything around us. As Earth's sun set on this new era, both species looked to the stars with fresh eyes. The galaxy was changing, transformed not by conflict, but by the recognition that true advancement comes not from following a single path, but from exploring every possible way forward. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had sparked a revolution in how civilizations could grow and develop. The age of linear progress was over. The age of infinite possibilities had begun.